Say what's up as you come in the chat. Hit that like button. Tell me where you're watching from. June 12th, 2025 on a Thursday. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to Cozy Corner TV. I am your host, Karen Smith. Call me Q, and we on the corner. What is up, everybody? So, welcome to Thursday. I hope everybody is having a good Thursday thus far. Got a couple of clips for us to get into. Today was a very fun day in the Senate. There were like some great hearings that occurred. We heard some great testimonies. We heard some let's call it what do we call it in ministry? Heated fellowship. Yeah, man, it was interesting. We had one of the senior chairmen just outright tell someone, of course from the Democratic side, just shut up. I thought it was crazy, man. It was a crazy thing to watch, and it's a 13-minute clip, so we're gonna watch that entire clip. But with that being said, rest of them are pretty short, just for the sense of me kind of getting them in there and wanting you guys to get as much content today as you can as far as just like politics and court. So let's jump right in. I like to say, as a advocate for mental health and wellness, please make sure that you are grounded and or regulated before you watch this. Why? Because the news can be triggering. If you're not grounded or regulated before you watch this, watch it another time. But if you are, welcome to the live stream. All right, guys. So first up on the menu, we got Ben Shapiro. Shout out to Ben Shapiro. We love Ben over here on the channel. Ben Shapiro reacts. Dems senator detained after meltdown on Kristi Noem's press conference. So Kristi Noem, very familiar name. Heard that name quite a bit today as I watched a few Senate hearings. It's interesting because there are Democrats who want her to be brought into court for questioning. They are really, really mad that she's not being brought in. So we're going to take a look at that. Shout out to Ben Shapiro for covering that so lovely as he usually does. Then we're going to switch gears and go to Fox 9 Minneapolis, St. Paul. Shout out to them. We usually react to a good amount of news on that channel. Chaos unfolds after Waltz grilled on ICE Gestapo remarks. So Mr. Comer, the chairman, he's the one who kind of got the hot head at some point. It was like, just shut up, to I believe it was Mr. Frost, because he was way out of line a couple of times. Wouldn't be quiet. Really got the chairman upset. So we're going to take a look at that. We're going to switch gears and we're going to go to Bill O'Reilly. Shout out to Bill. We love Bill over here on the channel. Bill O'Reilly covered the consuming Trump hatred. FBI investigating protest funding. So we're going to take a look at that. About a 24-minute clip will probably go about 14 minutes in, maybe less than that. 9 to 14 minutes, we'll call it, guys. And then we have Bakari Sellers. Shout out to Bakari Sellers. We see him on CNN often. CNN anchor. Is Trump weaponizing immigration for political gain? Heated CNN panel debates Trump's crackdown. So we'll take a look at what the CNN host had to say about some of the latest crackdown coming from the White House, and then we will end the live stream with a Christian clip. Shout out to Cliff Buell. We react to Cliff over here on the channel quite often. Go check out his channel when you get a chance. Tonight's title is This Man Just Defended Hitler. So we're going to take a look at that. All right, guys, we're going to jump into the first clip of the live stream. Shout out to Ben Shapiro. He reacts to Democratic senator detained after meltdown at Kristi Noem's press conference. I believe this is going to be very congruent with, is it the next clip? Yeah, with the next clip we're going to watch, and we're watching the Senate hearing, and it says that chaos unfolds. This is where I believe it's Mr. Frost, Congressman Frost, who got, if he didn't get kicked out, they went to some type of suspension, because I know Marjorie Greene was up to speak next. And then the chairman kind of called the suspension because he literally wouldn't shut up. Like, he was so upset that he wanted Kristi Noem to be brought to court that he completely lost his composure. Goose or Pooh, shout out to the chat. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for stopping by. Shout out to you. Wiz the Wizard, shout out to you. How you guys doing? Real 13 GK, shout out to you. Thanks for stopping by. Fresh Group, shout out to you guys. Thank all you guys for stopping by. I appreciate that. Let's take a look. What is he saying? Goose or Poos. This dude pushes white supremacist agenda. This dude agrees with Nazis and white supremacists. Be better, bro. And Ben Shapiro. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Goose Boost. It sounds like you don't really like the topics we're talking about. Come on, bro. I say this every single night. I'm an advocate for mental health and wellness. News can be triggering. So if you don't like this type of news, you shouldn't watch it. If it's gonna make you triggered and it's gonna make you act not behaved. You gotta know your limits, bro. You gotta have boundaries. All right, guys, let's jump into the first clip of the live stream. Ben Shapiro, let's go.
I gotta react to this insanity from Senator Alex Padilla of California. Essentially, the story is that he went into the middle of a press conference with the Secretary of Homeland Security, and he basically just rushed in and started yelling at her questions. And security appears not to know who he is. About halfway through them grabbing him, he says that he's a senator from California, but they don't know him from Adam. It's not like he cleared his presence with security. So the video shows him being rushed out of the room while he's simultaneously yelling at Kristi Noem. They take him out, they put him on his stomach, they handcuff him, it's all very peaceful, they briefly detain him, and apparently he then got a meeting with Kristi Noem in person. She later said, all he had to do was call my office, which is the proper answer. Unexplained what all this means, what this is all a part of, in just 1 second. First, again, don't miss a moment of the stories that matter. Become a Daily Wire Plus member for alerts, breaking news, investigative journalism, all uncensored and ad-free. Get 40% off new annual memberships for a limited time at Daily Wire Plus. Again, that's why we're here. We do these reacts specifically so that we can be here on time with you. Daily Wire Plus helps us make all of that happen. So anyway, back to Alex Padilla. Let's be clear. Democrats are all looking for attention right now. Everything is about attention seeking. If you think of Democrats at this point as a series of 5-year-olds who are desperate for mommy's attention, then their behavior starts to make a lot more sense. They got a lot more sense. Whether it is Cory Booker filibustering for 24 hours or no reason whatsoever. And the entire Democratic press going insane. Oh, look, he's a hero. He's a hero of the moment, shouting at President Trump, taking out his angry eyes. And then giving you the full Spartacus. Or whether you're talking about AOC and her fake arrests from a couple of years ago when she was putting her hands behind her back, or whether you're talking about Alex Padilla today. The Democrats are solely reliant still on this idea that whoever resists Trump the most strongly wins. That all you have to do is just yell at Orange Man Bad and yell at members of the Orange Man Bad cabinet, and that will somehow result in a magical victory for Democrats. I don't know what they're thinking. They've tried this now for a full decade. If a strategy isn't working after a full decade, you might want to try a different strategy.
Yeah.
So Alex Padilla, of course, can get all sorts of attention.
Possibly.
Democrats are saying things like, well, if Alex Padilla can be arrested, if he can be detained, what could happen to you? Well, I don't know. What would happen to me if I rushed into the middle of a press conference with Kristi Noem and no one knew who the hell I was and I started yelling at her? What do you think would happen to me? The same thing that would happen to you. The same thing that would happen to Alex Padilla. Unless you are recognized when you walk in, they are going to arrest you, probably. At the very least, they're going to remove you from the room because she's the Secretary of Homeland Security in an incredibly tense and fraught situation. It's such a bizarre move by the Democrats to sort of treat this as though this is Tiananmen Square. The tanks are running over the protesters. The tanks are running over Alex Padilla. Gavin Newsom is a resistance hero. Gavin Newsom is the governor of the 4th largest economy on planet Earth, the most populous state in America. Gavin Newsom is not some sort of victim. His state has been run quite poorly. 1.5 million net citizens have left California since 2019.
That's crazy.
People in California have massive cost of living issues. Like, for a middle-class family, average cost of living issue, $26,000 more than the average across the rest of America. But somehow, he's a resistance hero. Why? Because Trump sent federal forces into LA, and now he gets to claim that he is standing up to men. Well, again, I just don't understand why Democrats believe that this is the winning message. All Americans want at this point is normalcy. That's all they want. There's a fascinating graphic that people have been trafficking around that shows sort of the ideological diversity within the two parties. And it shows, on the one end, Democratic Party, and the ideological diversity is extremely narrow. So all of these sort of various ideological perspectives are very closely knit together. And on the right, you have a much broader sort of network. And so the right looks like it's much bigger and much broader and covering a lot more ground because you have people who are pro-life and people who are pro-choice. You have people who are pro-free markets and anti-free markets. The right looks really big right now, and the left looks really small because the left has decided that its only point of commonality is saying mean things about the system and saying mean things about Trump. If you do that, then they'll let you get away with most anything. But if you don't do that, then you get away with pretty much nothing. Well, if you only have one point of commonality, then of course you're going to end up a very, very small ideological party. That's not great for the country. The truth is that as the Democratic Party eventually learns that this is a very stupid strategy, and they move away from just yelling at Trump full time as their strategy, they're going to have to come back to something that resembles normalcy. President Trump has moved the Overton window so far on immigration that we're now arguing over whether we ought to deport all illegal immigrants or just many illegal immigrants. That is an argument that lives in Trump world. And Alex Padilla can yell about that as much as he could possibly want. He's not going to win that argument. I still don't know what the Democrats are really yelling about. Like, there are multiple things that are being positive.
They don't know what they're
You have Democrats yelling. It's about a violation of due process. Okay, show me the person whose due process has been violated, and then file a lawsuit, and that person's case will be taken up before a court, and then presumably get a hearing, and that's how the process works. And then you have people who are yelling that it's some sort of fascistic imposition for the Trump administration to try to enforce federal law. The American people don't believe that. They don't believe that at all. And now you have Democrats claiming that Donald Trump is in the middle of an authoritarian takeover of America because Alex Padilla got manhandled by security who didn't know who he was at the time. And by the way, just because he shouts that he's a senator, so what? I mean, so what? Is that showing ID? If you shout that you are a member of the cast and crew of a particular movie, does that mean you're not going to be removed from set? By the way, this sort of stuff happens all the time in public life. I remember just a few years ago, actually, I was doing an interview with Elon. This would have been the beginning of last year. I was with Elon at Auschwitz, and we did an interview in Krakow. And in the middle of the interview, there was some guy who was just kind of sitting in the back. We had no idea who he was. And we figured he was with Elon's team. Elon's team figured he was with us. And it turns out he was just some third-party guy who sort of infiltrated the room. That's an actual security threat. That's a major, major problem. And so the idea that if you walk in shouting at a principal like Kristi Noem, that the FBI agents aren't going to remove you from the room until they can at least establish who you are, that's really silly. And again, this wasn't a press conference. Really, this was Kristi Noem who was speaking to the press. It wasn't a press conference in the sort of formal, I'm taking questions from the press. It was a statement that she was reading to the press, essentially. And Alex Padilla came storming in. Listen, he got what he wanted. He got attention. But is that sort of attention going to help the Democratic Party? Not until they fix the underlying problem. And the underlying problem is, in fact, their immigration policy and their extremism. If they believe that counter-signaling Trump is somehow a victorious strategy, well, good luck to them. We'll see you on tomorrow's show. We'll have much more on all of this, plus breaking news in the Middle East, plus economic news, tons going on. We'll see you here tomorrow.
Shout out to Ben Shapiro. He covered it lovely as always. Look, he makes a lot of great points. I always say these things like, there are going to be people on here that we watch and I probably react to with you guys that you're not going to agree with. I don't agree with necessarily everyone, but I do like balance. I don't like to watch one side of things. I don't like to watch people who don't have, an open mind. Like those things like that seem very immature to me. They also seem very unintelligent. So I'm just not interested in being very one-sided. So yes, sometimes you guys are going to see things on here where you're going to be like, why is Q watching this person or reacting to this person? At least those of you that are not on here all of the time. It's not like I don't have returning viewers. So I know the viewers that are on here with me often, and they're pretty used to my broad spectrum of things. They know that I'll react to something or we'll watch something by Bill O'Reilly and turn it around and watch something by Bill Maher, right? And I'll do that. And I'll do that being able to do that and stand in that space with tension and not be bothered, like be unmoved, not feel like I can't agree to disagree with someone and still converse with them. So it's just not that. That's the reason why I give the disclaimer every live stream, and I tell you guys, news can be triggering because you can literally just see me reacting to someone that you lose it. For whatever reason, you lose it. I'm not sure why, but people have their reasons why they do that. But Ben Shapiro makes a great point when he talked about the Democratic Party having only one commonality, and it's bad Trump, right? Bad administration. They don't like his cabinet. They don't like that he's president. And if a team, a country, an entity stays like that, I said it in the background, it won't be so long before they're extinct, before they won't exist. On the Republican side, you see a lot. We do see a lot of the things that President Trump puts forward. We do see them, let's say, pass in the House, right? But with the majority vote. But with that being said, everyone might not agree with the fact that, let's say, for instance, it's a big, beautiful bill, but they may agree, hey, this is the best direction we need to go in, and we need to do this together as administration so we can present a united front. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think that that's strategic, and I think that it's intelligent. I think that when you present yourself the other way, that's when you cause problems, which is what we saw during the last administration. So let's see if they can figure it out. Let's see if they can figure it out before 2028 rolls around. All right, guys, switching gears. We're going to go to Fox 9, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Shout out to them. Chaos unfolds after Waltz grilled on ICE Giuseppe remarks. Okay, so this is why my thumbnail says Tim Walz's question on what is a woman. You're gonna see Nancy Mace. She's gonna be the first one up, and she's gonna be asking Tim Walz a series of questions. I believe that she questions him up until minute marker 5, and then AOC jumps on a little bit after that. I want to play this whole clip, this whole 13-minute clip, because this clip was literally amazing, just how things unfolded in a hearing. I've said it on here before, where if you guys go and you actually watch like a Senate hearing, it's kind of crazy how it plays out. Like you'd be shocked that it's happening the way you see it happening, but it occurs there. Such bad behavior sometimes, but they can be really fun to watch. So we're going to take a look at the whole entire clip, just so we can see both sides. You know, we see Nancy Mace first question him. We see AOC talk to the panel. And Marjorie Greene comes on towards the end, but she's arguing with Mr. Frost. And I believe that's when they go into that suspension and there's a break. So let's take a listen.
Recognize Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to the unofficial 2028 Democrat presidential primary right here on stage at the Oversight Committee. Governor Newsom must be seething. The three of you beat him to the stage, but he's a little busy right now defending illegals and defending Antifa, torching what is left of Los Angeles. Governor Walz knows the playbook. In 2020, he rolled out the red carpet for anarchists while Minnesotans watched their neighborhoods burn. You've turned your states into sanctuaries for illegals. You've done more to shield MS-13 than to protect the single mom working 2 jobs in Chicago, Queens, or Minneapolis. And you've worked harder against ICE than with them. So Governor Walz, and boy does that feel nice to say the word governor, my first question is for you. Did you know the Nazis killed 6 million Jews during the Holocaust? It's a yes or no question. Did you know the Nazis killed 6 million Jews during the Holocaust?
Pushing my button, Dan.
Okay.
Yes, I believe that's historic.
Okay, would you agree the Holocaust is the most horrific atrocity in human history? Yes or no?
I think the Holocaust ranks amongst them, yes.
Did you know the Nazi Gestapo imprisoned, tortured, and murdered Jews by the hundreds of thousands and committed genocide against the Jews? Did you know that?
I do know they operated as
Did you know ICE has done none of that? Yes or no?
Operated as a secret police force?
No, that's not the question. Did you know that ICE has not committed genocide against anyone?
Yes, I do know that.
Okay. Do you apologize for your disgusting comparison of ICE to the Gestapo, who killed hundreds of thousands of Jews during the Holocaust?
As a history teacher?
Yes or no is the question.
A historical comparison.
You're a governor. You understand what the question is. It's yes or no. Will you apologize for what you said about ICE, comparing them to Gestapo?
I who they are when they operate, to not use unmarked.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, this governor, or honorable, can't answer the question. Do you believe the Nuremberg trials were a good exercise in holding the Nazis accountable? Yes or no?
I think due process.
Okay, so are you calling for ICE agents to be brought to a tribunal under the threat of death by comparing them to the Gestapo?
Everyone is afforded due process.
What don't you understand about yes or no? Like, what can't you comprehend about yes or no questions? Do you still want to abolish ICE? Do you still want to abolish ICE? Yes or no?
That I wanted to abolish ICE.
Didn't you march in a rally calling for ICE's abolishment?
Not that I can recall, Congressman.
Well, according to widespread media reports, you did.
And the media is always correct.
How do you rate Kamala Harris's job as border czar? I want a number between 1 and 10. How was she as border czar?
I wouldn't have a way to measure that. I was not in the administration.
Weren't you her running mate for vice president?
As in the campaign.
And you can't rate her role as border czar on a scale of 1 to 10. Was she great at 10 or was she a 1? Terrible.
I think her proposal that she put forward to make sure we had the bipartisan immigration.
It wasn't bipartisan. Did you ever personally speak with Kamala about Joe Biden's cognitive collapse?
Not that I can recall, Congressman.
Not as her running mate for vice president. You never once talked to her about the president and why she was nominated instead of him.
No, not that I can recall.
What kind of operation were you guys running over there?
I was more concerned with Donald Trump's cognitive.
Thank God he's president and J.D. Vance is vice president and not you. Have you ever served in a combat zone, Governor?
I have not, Congresswoman.
Okay. Are you still friends with school shooters?
I have never been a friend with a school shooter.
Did you say you were friends with school shooters on the debate stage?
Oh, Congresswoman.
Yeah, is bullying, my mom was a teacher, I'm a high school dropout, we can talk about that later. Is bullying okay?
Is bullying okay as a teacher?
Is bullying okay, yes or no? Is it okay to bully somebody? Yes or no?
I have to push back at a bully. So yes, I do think there's a
So
time.
you think it's okay to bully others?
I think it's okay to bully the bully at times.
Well, you're showing that the Democrat Party is the party of violence. Were you at Tiananmen Square?
Have I been to Tiananmen Square? I have.
Were you at Tiananmen Square?
I have been at Tiananmen Square.
When were you there?
Oh, as I recall, January of 1990.
Okay. What is a woman?
There it goes.
What is a woman is the question.
I'm not sure I understand the question here.
Well, that.
Bro, no. Like, no, Tim. No. This right here is where I was like, you have got to be kidding me right now. See, this is why so much of America believe that the Democrats they have, you know what? Ben Shapiro said it best. Are the Democrats high on their own supply? This man literally, first of all, he stuttered. Like, this is actually a hard question. He stuttered. And then he literally says he doesn't understand the question. It gets worse. I have to go back. This is the primary reason why you guys even see what my thumbnail says, because I thought this was the most ridiculous answer. It's coming from a Democratic governor. Why can't he answer this question? He could. There's so many different ways to answer this question. What is a woman? You, Miss Mace, you are a woman. He could have he could have killed it just like that, but he couldn't do it. It's like, this is the problem with the Democrats. They've lost their mind and they're so comfortable in their insanity. He couldn't do it. He could have said, my sister, Miss Mace, my sister is someone who's a woman like yourself. You and my sister, you will be two people that I would be considered to be women. He could have said that. He could have said someone who is a human being that is born with breast and a vagina. He could have said that, but he literally he stuttered. Like, I'm stuttering because it's ridiculous. This is literally ridiculous.
What is a woman is the question.
I'm not sure I understand the question here.
That. Okay.
What do you want me to say? This is.
I ordered 200 hand-forged knives to my dorm room and built a Wix website to sell them.
What is a woman is the question.
I'm not sure I understand the question here.
That. Okay.
What do you want me to say? This is.
I want you to say that a woman like me is an adult human female, that men can't become women. You guys are the party of violence, and you're the party erasing women. You don't respect us. You're a bigot. You're a misogynist. You're a sexist. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Congressman Lady,
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous
Cortez from New York.
All right, well, that was some kind of bingo going on over there. I don't know what's going on. Anyways.
Oh, I know what's going on.
Thank you to the witnesses for coming here today. I apologize for the treatment that the four of you have been subjected to. And Governor Waltz, I just have to say, I know you're getting a lot of grief from the majority here, but we are talking about individuals who have cheered on an individual who issued a Nazi salute from behind the presidential seal of the United States of America, who have cheered on the pardoning of individuals who attacked the United States Capitol and flew a Nazi flag and the flag of the Confederacy, traitors to the United States, sworn enemies of the United States of America, through the capital of this nation. And now they want to act offended because someone has the courage to say, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, maybe it's a duck. So I want to thank you for not wavering to their bullying, which is unconscionable, and sad to see. So I just wanted to let you know that, Governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
To the three of you, Governor Waltz, Governor Pritzker, and Governor Hochul, you three have each sworn an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, correct? I'll start with you.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I have.
And I imagine that also includes the Fourth and Fifth Amendment protections for due process and the rule of law.
It does.
Sure does.
Yes.
And that means protecting your people in your states, U.S. citizens and every individual, because that is what makes America great, that we are a land of the free and of rule of law, to protect them from infringements of their civil liberties, correct? Now, what we are seeing is a pattern where ICE is breaking the law. We have the detention of a U.S. citizen who has been detained by immigration officials. We have ICE here that has also blamed and arrested U.S. citizens for being simply suspected of being an immigrant, largely because of their appearance. In January, a Chicago-based U.S.-born citizen, Julio Noriega, was arrested by ICE and held in custody for over 10 hours. In April, a Florida Highway Patrol officer pulled over Juan Carlos Lopez Gomez, a United States-born citizen, and arrested him on suspicion of being in the country illegally. He had his real ID, his social security card, his mother presented his birth certificate, and they still didn't let him go. In May, U.S. citizen Leonardo Garcia Venegas was filming an ICE raid. He was arrested by ICE. In May, a veteran and U.S. citizen who is Puerto Rican, was detained during an ICE raid at his workplace in New York City. That's called a paper bag test. And your job, Governor Hochul, is to protect people from that kind of infringement, correct?
Yes.
Because all of us must adhere to the law, and no one is above it. So if a U.S. citizen tries to break the law, or if an ICE officer tries to break the law, your job is to uphold the law, correct?
We absolutely uphold the laws of the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the State of New York.
And sanctuary states are about U.S. citizens as well, having sanctuary against the attacks on our constitutional rights from illegal search and seizure. There is nothing preventing ICE from issuing a warrant and you having complete compliance with their request. Correct, Governor Hochul?
We comply in cases where there's been criminal activity alleged. Yes, we always do. But we're not involved in civil immigration enforcement because our state police that I control have to deal with other crimes that they're solving.
And apologies, I just have 10 seconds left. But when they say illegal versus legal immigration, they are trying to end legal status in the United States as well. Correct, Governor Pritzker, with the end of TPS and making people undocumented by removing legal status, ending legal status, and then having the audacity to call them illegal when they were here documented, correct?
Taking students' visas away from people, taking their legal right to be in the United States away from them when they've been granted maybe years earlier to stay.
So I don't want to hear about how this is about illegal versus legal immigration. They are attacking legal status and removing legal status. The Republican majority is anti-legal immigration in the United States. I want to make that very clear, and I yield back.
Chair now recognizes
Mr. Chair.
Mark.
Unanimous consent request.
Mr. Frost.
Unanimous consent request into the record a NBC article, Senator Alex Padilla removed from news conference with Homeland Security Secretary No.
All right, without objection to order.
I have another one, the Hill article, Padilla forcibly removed from known press conference.
Without objection to order.
And I have a third one, Axios, Democratic Senator forcibly removed from DHS press conference.
Without objection to order.
Mr. Chair, also, we were just talking about this. I want to know if you can commit to working with us so we can...
You're out of order. Chair recognizes...
I have a point of order.
No.
I have a point of order.
State your point.
We need to subpoena.
That's not a
Secretary
point of order.
Noel.
Chair
We
recognizes
just
Mr.
talked
Green
about
from,
this
that's not a
earlier.
point.
We talked
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my
Chair recognizes
time.
Ms.
thrown to the
Green.
ground.
Reclaiming my
In
time.
handcuffs. In his own damn.
Oh, Democrats can't follow the rules. Can't follow
Chair
the law.
recognizes Ms. Green.
Can't follow the rules. Can't
We
follow
need
the
to
law.
subpoena Kristi Noem. It's
Chair
our
recognizes
staff.
Ms.
DHS
Green.
federal
There's a
officers
privilege
that
of the
threw a
majority,
US
and that
senator
means
to the
we're in
ground.
charge,
Just
not your
because we were
side.
talking about this
Because
happening
you
to
lost
others.
the
All right, Ms.
election.
Green, we're gonna start the
Because
clock.
you
have
supported the
anything to say about
elimination
that?
of our country.
All right,
My
Will
time.
you commit on the record?
Stop.
to
Yeah, my
working to
time.
subpoena
Thank you,
Kristi
Mr.
Noem?
Chairman. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
you're out of order. Chair recognizes
Will
Ms.
you
Green.
commit on the record
you.
that subpoenaing Kristi Noem because a U.S. senator was just
Listen.
thrown to the ground, detained in his own.
Democrats can't follow the rules.
You're out of
Can't
order.
follow the law. Can't follow the
Shut
rules.
up. Just shut up.
No, you're not going to tell me to shut up.
Let's put it, how do you give me the order? You're running for the.
Not like that.
He has been out of order 6 times. He's trying to get on MSNBC. He probably knocked
I get it.
somebody off
I don't have a problem
MSNBC to
getting on
get on there.
MSNBC.
Ms. Green,
He's been arrested as a former
Yeah, well,
Antifa
okay.
member, right?
back to order,
Antifa.
Ms. Green, go.
But he's a
go.
former
All right,
Antifa
Ms.
member,
You're
Mr.
recognized.
Chairman.
You got
No
it.
surprise.
Who's a former
Good.
Antifa member? Me?
Yeah, you.
I asked that these words be taken down.
No, Ms. Green,
Thank you.
you're
I
recognized.
asked that
Thank
these
you,
words
Mr.
be taken
Chairman.
down.
There's a motion.
Governor
Ms.
Hochul.
Green is recognized.
Governor
I asked that
Hochul,
these
you
words be taken
stated
down.
that you're a proud Democrat, proud registered
All right,
Democrat.
we gotta suspend. There's been a parliamentary move. They said they weren't gonna do that. What's the?
Oh man. So we have Tim Waltz on the Democratic side, representing the Democratic side, saying something to the effect of, I'm not sure if I understand the question when Nancy Mace asks him, what is a woman? This is why it's so troubling, and this is why they're going to struggle if things do not change immediately. But we shall see. All right, guys, switching gears. Let's go over to Bill O'Reilly now. And you know, in the case of that Senate hearing, a lot of people were upset with Mr. Comer. They said that he was way out of line. I'm not too sure if he's a ranking member or not, but they said he was way out of line. They didn't like his reaction, but I just simply said to his defense that there is a such thing as courtroom etiquette, and Mr. Force was 125% out of line. I want to say in a civilian court, there's a great chance that the judge probably would have held him in contempt. You could sit in the holding cell for some time for that. So I mean, he was out of line. Like, I literally thought at some point he was going to be quiet. I'm like, okay, he's going a little bit hard. Maybe he'll stop at this point. But he just kept going, and I was like, okay, this dude's out of line at this point. And then now Marjorie Greene has the upper hand because she's like, look at those Democrats. They just can't behave. They just can't listen. Can't follow the law. And he's just feeding right into it. All right, guys. So Bill O'Reilly, the consuming Trump hatred, FBI investigating protest funding. We're going to watch this for a couple minutes. Then I want you guys to head over to Bill O'Reilly's channel to give him his due views. Let's take a listen.
News Thursday, June 12, 2025. Stand up for your country. Let's talk about President Trump in a personal way. As you know, I have been, I don't know if it's friends is the right word, but I've known him for 35 years. And we socialized before he got into politics. And since he became president, we have had many, many conversations. Now, he is the most flamboyant president of all time by far. There's nobody even close. Teddy Roosevelt would be second. But Donald Trump is not a politician, all right? He is a businessman / show business person. And he's going to do what he wants to do. If you read The United States of Trump, my book on him, you'll see that. He is not influenced by public opinion very much. Once in a while, but not very much. So as he travels through his second term, he has become more polarizing than ever, and we're going to tell you why in a moment. But that doesn't seem to bother Mr. Trump. However, the Trump hatred, especially in the media, is getting out of control, and that is the subject of the talking points memo. So there are two reasons for the hatred, two primary reasons. Number one, Donald Trump totally rejects liberal policies and woke. There isn't one I can find that he supports.
Yeah.
He didn't used to be that way.
I would agree.
He was a registered Democrat
For
in New York
years.
City. But now, there's nothing on the left that he likes. And two is his demeanor. He's in your face. He does not speak precisely. He exaggerates, he brags. And he is putting on a show many times in the public arena. Those of us who know him discount that. I do. I mean, his tweets and all his, I don't take them seriously.
Yeah, me neither.
All right, what I take seriously is what he tells me and what I can see in the policy realm. I take that very seriously. What he does at 3 a.m. on social media doesn't matter to me at all.
After
But it
Taco
drives some
Bell,
Americans
it doesn't matter to
absolutely
me.
crazy. Okay? Now, my contention is that Donald Trump became president in 2016 because Americans despised Hillary Clinton. She lost. And at that point, Trump was running as a populist, and the nation just did not want Mrs. Clinton, particularly the heartland. And then, in his first term, Trump did pretty well, if you are a fair-minded person. So wages for working people went up, inflation went down to a very, very low level, and overseas was mostly calm.
My name is Aaron Wenzel. I'm a physician.
By those three, and those are the most important, he did well. But COVID wiped him out and created panic and insecurity. And then in 2020, when Joe Biden ran against Trump, the non-ideological voters, which always decide presidential elections, it's not the Democrats or Republican hardcore people that decide. It's the floaters in the middle.
Yeah.
They're feeling uneasy.
The people who don't
And
vote.
so they voted for Biden because he was a calmer presence than Trump. This is my opinion, but I think it's valid.
I think it's
Okay?
valid, yeah.
And so Biden takes over. Disaster. To a degree that we will see in the next year or so how bad it was, but second worst ever.
And those people in the middle that Bill O'Reilly those people in the middle who he is referring to, those floaters, are going to be those people who don't normally vote. They're not consistent voters. They're not out there every 4 years. They don't really care for politics too much, maybe not even paying attention to it on a day-to-day. But I agree totally with what he said. Biden was calmer than President Trump, and those who didn't really understand politics and or watch, all they really heard, especially if they were watching mainstream media, was the bad sides and what the mainstream media would promote about President Trump. So when it did come time to vote again, they're like, yeah, we're going to just go with Biden. Even if they didn't know that much about him, even if they didn't like him that much, they still were willing to go with Joe Biden over Donald Trump because he was a more calmer personality. So I actually agree with Bill O'Reilly on that.
I don't want to be redundant, but if you read Conferring the Presidents, James Buchanan was the first, and Biden's not going to pass him. But Biden was absolutely, there is nothing that he did that I can see that helped this country. Nothing in 4 years. And I believe he wasn't even in command. But we'll see, right? All right, so when you evaluate Trump's reemergence as president, you have to, if you're fair, again, keep the Biden performance, and Kamala Harris is an extension of that, in mind. That's not what's happening.
Yeah.
So powerful journalists, not as powerful as they used to be, I would say 90% of them, maybe 80%, if you count the Fox News crew, they lean toward Trump. They hate Trump.
Yeah.
So let's take Scott Pelley. I mean, he used to be the anchor of the CBS Evening News, the lead correspondent on 60 Minutes. I mean, obviously, he loathes Donald Trump, and he has used 60 Minutes to batter the president. And that's what he does. We reported specifically on how Pelley does not report accurately or fairly about Donald Trump. He just doesn't. And then we had this week, this guy, Terry Moran, big shot at ABC, big correspondent, national correspondent. He's fired because he tweets that Trump is a hater. Well, okay, but you're a reporter, not an analyst. If I want to say Trump's a hater, I can do that because I'm an analyst. I'd never do it because that's disrespectful to the office. I don't hate Joe Biden at all. I feel sorry for him, but I feel even sorrier for the country that he was president.
Yeah.
Okay, I hate him. But anyway, Moran gets fired because ABC is on the ropes. They have to do something, Disney, and they did. Then you have Bernie Goldberg, who's my friend, and who's an honest broker of information. Now, Bernie is an analyst now. Okay, he runs BernardGoldberg.com. We have him on the program from time to time. He has no use for Donald Trump at all. He's offended by Donald Trump. Okay, I'm not mad at Bernie.
Yeah.
I respect that opinion. That's Bernie's belief. And Bernie, as I said, is an honest broker. He's entitled to that belief. And then another friend of mine, Bob Costas, brilliant sportscaster, liberal guy, but not a loon. Not a loon, okay?
Not a loon.
He's crazy about Donald Trump.
My friends laughed at me for buying this, and now they ask me where I got this. So I almost made the
Rotate.
Those corporations have specific financial stakes in running the gauntlet that the Trump administration will throw up against them, not just in the form of Trump's unhinged Truth Social rants or the things he says that are an affront to basic decency, forget about basic American principles.
Okay, so if I debated Bob Costas, and he doesn't want to do that, and I understand, okay? I could beat him pretty soundly. I mean, I don't see myself, Trump, being an affront to basic decency. You know, he's a businessman. He's made mistakes in his life. Everybody has. But I would tell you, believe me, I would tell you, if President Trump were doing something untoward or trying to undermine American principles. I'd be the first one to tell you that. I don't see it. And I follow him as closely as anybody does because I speak to him all the time. I don't see it. But Costas believes it with every fiber of his body. And again, he's absolutely entitled to it. Costas is a smart guy. All right, but he's crazed about Donald Trump. So this is not unique. All right, and many people forget about history. So if you're of a certain age, a baby boomer, remember Dan Rather hated Richard Nixon, hated his guts. Roll the tape.
I wonder if you could tell us what goes through your mind when you hear people who love this country and people who believe in you say reluctantly that perhaps you should resign or be impeached.
Well, I'm glad we don't take the vote of this room, you say.
Okay, and it was on and on with Rather. Rather made his name pounding Nixon. Sam Donaldson, ABC, I saw this myself because I was a correspondent at ABC when Donaldson was there. This is 2004. Donaldson despised Ronald Reagan. Go.
I used to say, I thought if you were down on your luck and you got through the Secret Service, got in the Oval Office, and Mr. President, I'm down on my luck. He would literally give you the shirt off his back. And then he'd sit down in his undershirt and he'd sign legislation throwing your kids off school lunch program, maybe your parents off Social Security, and of course the welfare queen off of welfare.
All right, so Reagan didn't do any of that. You know, but Donaldson's very liberal. More liberal than Rather. Donaldson was crazy liberal. And so this has been going on for a while, all right? This kind of liberal don't like conservatives. And you had the vice versa. Barack Obama got pounded, sometimes unfairly, by the right. Still does, okay? But let's get back to where we are now. There's one truism that overrides everything in the Trump is evil debate. If Kamala Harris were elected president, we would all be in major trouble. She would have carried on every Biden policy. There would have been no border reform. Inflation would be triple what it is now. She would have strangled the fuel industry. And overseas, Putin would not have been confronted at all. Okay, Gaza would have been aflame. China, which made tremendous strides during the Biden administration in espionage by sending people here. You remember that balloon thing? You know, did Biden ever explain that? Did you ever get an explanation about that? No. Biden let everything go because he couldn't focus. Kamala Harris is an elected president. I'm telling you, we'd probably be in a severe recession. Now, this is speculation. I understand that. But it's educated speculation. Right. So the next time you hear the Trump hatred, okay, you just say, Kamala Harris be better. And all of them would say yes. All of them would say yes, Harris would be better. And they'd be wrong. And that's a memo. All right, overseas, you got the same problem. The image of the United States is deteriorating. Pew did some study, 24 countries. Median is favorable toward the USA 49, unfavorable 49. It's usually way up, way more than that. Canada favorable 34, unfavorable 64. Poland favorable 55, unfavorable 37. France favorable 36, unfavorable 59. Germany favorable 33, unfavorable 66. Germans don't like us. Okay. Spain, same thing. 31 favorable, 64 unfavorable. Netherlands really doesn't like us. 29 favorable, 69 unfavorable. Sweden, 19. That's it. 19% of the Swedes like us. 79 don't. South Korea, where I just was, favorable 61 and favorable 39 because we're saving their butts over there. Japan, favorable 55, unfavorable 44. Australia, way underwater, favorable 29, unfavorable 71. Kenya, favorable 62, unfavorable 34. So Kenya likes us. And Mexico, favorable 29, unfavorable 69. So,
wow, those numbers are really high. Unfavorable in a lot of different places, but that's not surprising to me at all. But you know, I think Bill O'Reilly is on to something here. President Trump, yeah, I would agree with him. Our most flamboyant president, you know, but we can't take away from him being proactive. We can't take away from him doing things as fast as probably any president that has been inside the White House. And you have to give credit where credit is due, even if you don't like him. I say this all of the time. We have to be respectful of the commander-in-chief, the president, even if we do not like him. All right, guys, so second to last clip of the live stream is Trump weaponizing immigration for political gain. Heated CNN panel debates. We're going to take a look at a little bit of this. Then I want you guys to head over to CNN and finish up watching it. Let's take a listen.
We're here in the studio with our panel. I mean, Bakari, there is that Trump wants to take credit for nothing really happening except for protests and arrests. But the reality is that, you know, what's been going on in Los Angeles is largely due to law enforcement. LAPD, they've been doing their jobs. The military's not even there, really. They're not doing anything, according to the police chief who spoke to CNN tonight.
I think what you see tonight is a collaborative effort by the NYPD and the LAPD in trying to make sure that they allow these protesters to have their voices heard, that there's no violence, that there's no looting, that they're confined to one particular area. And then when the protest time has reached its maximum conclusion, they go home and disperse. And so in LA, you're talking about since June 6th, there have been 330 non-citizens arrested. Only about 113 people had criminal records. And so the protests that you're hearing, the voices that you're hearing from people are about those mothers or about those children, or about those people who make our lives run every single day, who are not criminals, because no one will sit up here and tell you that if you committed a crime, you shouldn't be deported, but those individuals who are part of the fabric of our lives. And this is Trump's America. And that's what we're seeing. And one of the things that I want to hear from my Republican colleagues is, look, Trump is talking about ICE raids in Philadelphia next, and Detroit next, and Chicago next. But what about those plants that we know are bringing in illegal immigrants in Arkansas? What about those plants in South Carolina with Governor Henry McMaster, or those agricultural facilities in Brian Kemp's Georgia? I mean, are we really cracking down on immigration or illegal immigration? Or are you trying to pit Americans against each other? Because that's what we're seeing on TV. It's black versus brown, it's immigrant versus citizen, it's East versus West. This is Donald Trump's America. I think people are fighting back against that.
Republican friend?
Trump's America.
You are the friend.
Well, first of all, when you hear that they're
It's in Arkansas. What about those plants in South Carolina with Governor Henry McMaster, or those agricultural facilities in Brian Kemp's Georgia? I mean, are we really cracking down on immigration or illegal immigration? Or are you trying to pit Americans against each other? Because that's what we're seeing on TV. It's black versus brown, it's immigrant versus citizen, it's East versus West. This is Donald Trump's America, and I think people are fighting back against that.
Yeah, and some people on the left agree with Bakari on that. I want to save some of that for our reaction tomorrow because it is a longer clip. It's about a 13-minute clip, but some people do agree with Bakari on that. They feel like this is Trump's America, and people are fighting against that. And in a sense, what we would say is Trump's America, he is the leader of the country, right? This is where I've always found this to be hard for me, and I never understood it on the left side. Even if you don't like the president, you don't want to look weak as a country because you're going at your world leader. There are literally some countries where if you do this, you can be executed. But I always say because as Americans, we're so privileged and we're so entitled, we do things that in other countries they wouldn't even dare think about doing. So we're going to save the rest of what Bakari and Abby and the rest of them are talking about on there for tomorrow. We're going to jump to the last live stream of the clip, guys. We got Cliff Buell. Shout out to Cliff. This man just defended Hitler, and he has a question mark there. So let's take a listen.
I'm pretty sure he just imploded at the end of this debate. Watch this.
All human beings are worthy of provision and protection. All of them. Right? Would you agree with that? All members of the human family, no matter what their achievements, no matter what their attributes, all members of the human family are worthy of all provision and protection.
I have no idea.
That's a problem.
You say Hitler comes to me and says, you wouldn't believe how much better our society is now that we're eliminating these people. Then you have to go back and look at it and say, okay, what have you lost? You have to point to something where they're adding value to society.
So they have to achieve, they have to add value. But they don't have value.
Yeah.
If you like something like this, you'll love it over on Hulu.
That's hilarious, right? He says the guy asks him, so they have to add value, but they don't have value. And the atheist says yes. I think it's hilarious. It's not shocking to me that he would answer the question like that. Do all human beings deserve provision and protection? Of course, all human beings, because all human beings are made in the image of God, right? So why wouldn't they have provision and protection? That's exactly what God offers all human beings, right? Regardless of if they even believe in him or not. So for the atheist to say, I have no idea, it makes sense for him to choose that answer. It's the easiest answer, right? If he has no belief system, nothing that's bigger than himself. He just goes off of his own moral, ethical code, which is fine. But if there's nothing that's bigger than that, then when that fails, then essentially you fail. So that's why he says, no, I have no idea, right? Because what would he be basing it off of? If you're going to ask a Christian, there's someone who follows Jesus, they're going to say, well, of course, all human beings, yes, are made in the image of God. So all human beings would be entitled to provision and protection. Someone might say, even if they're evil, well, yes, because God still makes sure that all human beings have some level of provision and protection. But of course, if an atheist doesn't believe in Jesus Christ, hasn't given themselves over to him, they would not believe that because they don't understand the importance of all human beings to God. So it makes total sense to me, right? We can look at something over here and not be offended by it, but take it in, analyze it, chew the meat, spit out the bones, and move on. All right, guys, with that being said, I appreciate you hanging out with me on a live stream tonight. We will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday, so we are going to do our best to hop on a little bit earlier. Until next time, guys, take care of yourselves, take care of one another. Love yourselves, love one another, and be peaceful.